All right. Good morning, everybody. Good morning, all you magnificent melonheads of the world. Happy Monday, everybody. A new week is upon us. Today is October 21st, 2024. And the top story this morning, it's Boeing. Again, Boeing. This company just can't stay out of the news, but it's actually pretty good news. Boeing, over the weekend, the story broke that they have reached a tentative deal. Tentative, I want to emphasize that word, a tentative deal with the Machinists and Aerospace Workers Union. The deal includes a 35% raise. That's up from the previously rejected offer of a 25% raise. And there's some other provisions in there. No pensions being restored. The union wanted that, but the company is offering an increase to the 401k match. Things like they're bringing back annual incentives or bonuses. And also a $7,000 ratification bonus has been offered. Like, hey, union, if you accept this deal, we'll give you seven grand cash up front for your members. No word yet on whether the union will accept that or not, but a vote has been scheduled for the next few days. Boeing stock is doing all right on this news. This would bring an end to the month-plus long strike that has cost the company a little over $1.3 billion. So a little bit of a silver lining to that big gray cloud that is Boeing this morning. That could potentially help the economy there. And, of course, the other big news that's going on today is precious metals again, quietly grinding higher day in and day out. We've got gold is up again, and we've got silver broke $34 this morning. Actually, it broke $34 briefly last night, opened up almost $1. Guys, metals are rallying like crazy here. I feel like I'm going to jinx it. Somebody find me some wood to knock on here fast. Metals are just going up. Look, we've got things like interest rates are higher today. The dollar is higher today. Gold and silver don't care. They're moving higher. You shouldn't have all three of those things happening. Typically, higher yields and stronger dollars is bad for precious metals, but the metals are rallying anyway. So I'll be honest with you, I'm not entirely sure what is the primary driver of this. It could be central banks buying. We've still got a big arbitrage, at least with silver. You know, the price of silver is over $36 an ounce in China, so the Chinese are still bidding it up a little bit. That could be playing a role. And probably a loss of confidence in our elected leadership. Again, guys, no matter what happens in the election, I've spoken about this at great length. I spent a lot of time on Friday afternoon on my live stream about this. No matter who wins the election, there is going to be a massive amount of new Treasury issuance in the next administration. President Harris would do it. President Trump will do it. They're both going to print, borrow, and spend. And so maybe this monster run in gold above 2,700. Right now, I think we're closer to 2,800 than even 27 at this point. So, I mean, 2,700s may just be a stop on the way. I mean, silver continuing to rally like crazy as well. Barely spent not even a day in the $33 range, now 34. It's probably anticipating more currency debasement. And, you know, the fact that yields are rising, that could be the market saying, look, interest rates, yeah, they are going up, but they're not rising fast enough considering what I think the currency debasement is going to be in the next few years. It hasn't risen enough for me to sell my gold and buy 10-year U.S. treasuries yet, not until the price of that treasury comes down and the yield rises. So gold and silver are still doing well here this morning. We also got a little bit of a dead cat bounce going on in oil. That was up above $70 this morning. I wouldn't read too much into that move in oil. I think that was kind of due. Also going on this morning, we got TGI Fridays maybe filing for bankruptcy. That story has been about a month in the making. You may recall from back in September, TGI Fridays had defaulted on one of their whole business on it's called a whole business securitization. The company borrowed $375 million in a single bond that was basically backed by the whole company, by all of their restaurants. And they failed to file documentation on time for that back in September. And so the bondholders basically seized all the restaurants. Now the company is about to go bankrupt. They are in negotiations for a loan to continue operating while they pursue the Chapter 11 process. They're trying to come out of this as an operating company, but there are some changes to TGI Fridays on the horizon. We got more stimmies out of China this morning. China has cut their 1-year and 5-year loan prime rates, or LPRs, by 25 basis points each. The Chinese stock market kind of yawned at that. Maybe a little bit of stimmy fatigue going on in China. I mean, day in and day out, you're hearing about $100 billion here to buy stocks, $400 billion here to buy unbuilt apartments. We're going to lower this rate. We're going to lower that rate. We're going to cut the reserve requirement rate. Maybe Chinese investors and American investors pumping money into Chinese markets are getting a little bit of stimmy fatigue, and they just don't care. They want to see those big $1 trillion numbers, 25 basis points, just not enough to get them to start bidding again. Also interesting going on, China cut a deal with India recently. Shout out to my moderator, Mish, who caught this one. They cut a deal to share patrols along a disputed border region between China and India just ahead of the BRICS conference. This is kind of interesting because China and India have been fighting over this disputed territory for years, but it's been this weird fighting. They don't actually shoot. They show up with like sticks and clubs, and they fight like gangs in the street. I guess it's not really a war if nobody actually pulls a trigger. They just beat each other to death instead of shooting each other. And that's different. Oh, hey, you know what? I'm not from that part of the world. I don't really understand foreign policy, but that seems kind of silly to me. But it's better than shooting at each other. So there's that. Anyways, they cut a deal. They didn't settle on a border. They're not going to stop fighting over it, it doesn't seem. They're just going to agree to each patrol the same region. I don't really know what it means, but I'm sure the BRICS guys are going to take that story and they're going to run exactly to the place they always run to. Oh my God, the BRICS gold-backed currency is coming any day now. And the reason I bring this up, guys, is, you know, we've been talking about this BRICS currency thing for a long time. I know we got a lot of BRICS guys follow this channel. I have been very skeptical of this whole BRICS story and this BRICS gold-backed currency story for years. And I can't help but feel a little bit vindicated by some of this China stimmy talk. All right. And my biggest gripe with BRICS and the gold-backed currency story is China is going to have to try to print their way out of this crisis. I've known they're going to do that. It's just what they're going to do. It's been the default move of corrupt and indebted governments and central banks around the world. And I don't think China is going to be any different. And here they are printing money to buy stocks. Story that broke last week. Their stock market's going vertical because they're cutting rates, because they're printing money. They're monetizing debt. They're bailing out banks via these loan facilities to complete construction of unbuilt apartments so they don't get more mortgage boycotts. They're debasing the currency. And you can't debase your currency when you're on a gold standard. You can't do it. You're pegged to gold. You can't just print money willy-nilly. And so I've always been very skeptical of this BRICS gold-backed story because these are the most totalitarian governments in the world, and totalitarian governments don't willingly give up their power, not without a fight. And when you go on the gold standard, the government gives up its power to steal from the masses via inflation. And that's just not the MO of the Chinese Communist Party or Vladimir Putin or any of these BRICS countries. And so, yeah, we got a little bit of a thing ahead of the BRICS summit, and I'm sure the BRICS guys are going to be out there saying gold-backed currency is coming. I remain highly, highly skeptical of this. There may be some shared BRICS currency that comes out, but my guess is it's going to resemble something more like special drawing rights, where you could put in rubles and take out rupees, or put in yuan and take out whatever the South African currency is. I forget the name of that currency. But I just don't think it's going to be this gold-backed thing. But you know what? Hey, gold is rallying ahead of the BRICS conference. Maybe that happens anyway. I'd love to eat some crow on this one. I'd love to be wrong because, in my opinion, that would mean the price of gold is going to skyrocket. But I remain highly skeptical of that story. Also going on today, we got Spirit Airlines stock is soaring this morning, up at one point over 40%. Look, nothing really great for that company. They just bought themselves time, a stay of execution, if you will. They extended the deadline to refinance their debt from a couple of days from now to the end of December. So they will be able to avoid that bankruptcy filing. Still no clear path to profitability for the company, but at the very least, they bought themselves some time. And also going on this morning, this is interesting. It actually happened Friday afternoon. We had a bank failure in Oklahoma. The First National Bank of Lindsay, Oklahoma failed. I was digging into this one all week. We'll mention this briefly, guys, but I'm going to do a dedicated video about this bank failure because there are some peculiar things about this bank failure. It's not a continuation of the crisis from last year. There are other channels that are reporting on this bank failure in the context of like Silicon Valley and Signature Bank. Guys, that is lazy journalism. That is not what's going on here. This is a story of small town corruption where the crooks got a little too greedy and they stole too much, and they drew too much attention to themselves. And, well, I spent the weekend digging into that little town and that little bank and the people behind it. I found some interesting stuff, so stay tuned to the channel for that. We will talk about that more later today. But first, we got to shrink my big melon of a head. And let's see what's going on in these markets. Don't forget, guys, to hit that like button and that subscribe button if you're new here, because we do this every day. So come and have your coffee with the melon heads as we go through markets. And right now, the S&P 500 is down 11 points, 0.19% lower. Looks like it caught a bounce around 7:30 this morning and is heading higher, but for the moment, still in red. The Dow, meanwhile, is down 44 points, 0.11%, also off the lows of the morning, but still in negative territory. And the NASDAQ is leading the way lower, down 72 points or 0.36% lower. So we've got stocks are down across the board here. We've also got a stronger dollar once again, 103.6 for the DXY. That's up 11 basis points. Remember, guys, this is the dollar gaining strength against other currencies. This is the dollar gaining strength against the euro, against the yen, not against things. The dollar is still losing power against things, namely assets, stocks, gold, silver, Bitcoin, not so much this morning, but you get the point. Asset prices are rallying across the board. So, yes, we have a stronger dollar, but that's relative to other currencies, not relative to other assets. And we have got yields are sharply higher this morning, at least on the long end. We have got the 30-year Treasury is at 4.445. That's up 6 points and change this morning. The 10-year is up 6.5 points also at 4.141. The 2-year is at 3.994. That's up almost 4 basis points. And the 1 month is up 0.5 point at 4.785. Yields are higher across the board. Hey, I thought the Fed was cutting rates. Let's look at this chart of the 10-year Treasury, shall we? September 18th. That is when the Fed cut rates. There you go. That's September 18th right there. You see that where I zoomed in? Guys, the Fed is cutting rates, and somebody forgot to tell rates because rates have done nothing but go up ever since that happened. The 10-year Treasury was about 3.6 when the Fed started cutting rates. We are now at 4.14 and rising, coming up on that 200-day moving average. I'm not sure that's really going to act as any kind of resistance. But guys, rates are moving higher. Why are rates moving higher? Well, the Fed doesn't directly control the long end of the yield curve. The long end of the yield curve is controlled by supply and demand, the amount of liquidity in the market, the amount of cash available to buy the bonds, and the supply of the bonds themselves, i.e. how much money the government is borrowing. And while the government is borrowing more and more, and there's no plan to slow it down, which means more debt issuance, more supply, the price of those bonds falls as the supply rises, and the interest rate and the price are inversely correlated, and so the price keeps rising, guys. And shout out to my buddy Nashville Pasta Man, sent me a message on Twitter yesterday about Stanley Druckenmiller announcing a massive short position on U.S. Treasuries. I think this is what he's eyeballing, is this massive issuance at the long end of the yield curve that's probably going to happen. Even though the Fed is cutting rates, we could see interest rates rise because they only influence the long end. They don't directly control it. And even though we've got interest rates rising and the dollar rising, we've got precious metals are rising along with it. This is something of an oddity here. Spot gold, $2,738. That's up another $17.80 here. December gold futures are at $27.53. Gold is up about 0.2% again today, guys. Just keeps rising day in and day out. Spot silver looking even better, $34.21. We blew right through $34. We only stayed in the $33 region for about a day. On Friday, as soon as the market opened up last night, we popped right above 34 and pretty much stayed there, up another 55 cents or 1.65% higher this morning. I like the shiny. Copper is up as well, 0.75%. Platinum is up a little more than 0.5%. Palladium's down about 0.9% here this morning. And even crude oil's catching a bounce here, $69.98. There's $70 for December 2024 WTI futures. That's up about $1.36 this morning. Not seeing too much news on the oil front. There's not really been any big geopolitical developments in the last few days, so I'm guessing this is just a dead cat bounce in the oil price, but we will keep an eye on that one. And we have also got Bitcoin is taking a breather this morning. We were up over 69,000, approaching 70,000 at one point last night. Now it looks like we're pulling back here, priced at $67,771. That is on Coinbase, down about $1,200 from a day ago here. I think Bitcoin is due. We broke out above this downward channel that we've been in, this bull flag pattern. I think we are due to retest this line before a move higher. I'm not sure that's exactly what's happening right now, but it looks like it. So I wouldn't be too surprised to see Bitcoin head back towards 65,000 over the next couple of days before resuming higher back into the 70s and beyond. And just to take a look at the silver chart, again, I love this one. Speaking of a breakout pattern, we broke out above this $32 level that had been acting as resistance for the first half of this year, now above $33. And once again, guys, I just want to remind you, when we set this to monthly candles and we zoom out, there is a whole lot of nothing between our current level in the low 30s and the all-time highs around $49, $50. So, guys, there's a lot of dead air all up in here. Price of silver could be rallying sharply higher here. I'm even hearing phrases like silver squeeze are coming back into popular usage right now. Silver squeeze is a throwback to February of 2021, the last time silver prices were threatening to break out. And of course, we all know how that one ended. But something that is different this time, there's that cliche, but something that's different this time. Shout out to Bai Xiaojun at Oriental Ghost on X, who posted this one. Check out what's going on in China, guys. The China silver price shown here at $36.24 an ounce. That's when you adjust for the exchange rate and the prices. You know, you can see they're using ounces per kilogram and then converting to dollars per troy ounce here. But $36.24 is the price in the Shanghai Gold Exchange right now for an ounce of silver. So you still have that arbitrage opportunity. That Chinese price is still pulling up on Western prices as it creates the opportunity to buy the metal in the West and then send it to China where you can sell it for a few bucks more. That is going to drag those Western prices higher. Thank you very much, Bao Xiaojun, for that one. Now let's talk about the big story this morning. Boeing and the union reach a tentative wage deal to end the strike. The plane maker's new proposal offers a 35% wage rise in agreement to end the machinist strike. Again, the union has not yet endorsed this one, but it looks optimistic here. Boeing and its machinist union have reached a tentative agreement that could end the strike that has halted most production in the past month. Boeing shares jumped nearly 4% in early pre-market trade. The stock has slumped 41% this year. The proposal negotiates with the 33,000 workers of the union, includes a wage increase of 35% spread over 4 years, a reinstated incentive plan, and an increase to company 401k fund matching. The International Association of Machinists and Aerospace Workers District representing the workers said in a statement on its website on Saturday. The latest offer does not restore pensions, which was a demand of many members, but union leaders said that may be out of reach. The company would keep paying annual bonuses, which were eliminated as part of the initial offer, and pay a $7,000 ratification bonus. A ratification vote is set for October 23rd. That is Wednesday of this week. Boeing's original offer of 25% that was rejected by the union local representing machinists in the Pacific Northwest that builds most of its jets. So, guys, this is probably going to get approved because remember some things we talked about last week. Boeing, first of all, they announced 17,000 layoffs. So if half of the guys who signed this deal are going to end up losing their jobs anyway, that's coming here. So Boeing's playing hardball with the union. And Boeing also filed with the SEC to raise as much as $25 billion in capital via either share or debt issuance. So Boeing is digging in here. They're laying people off, and they're ready to go for a couple of years with this strike if need be with all of this money they're raising. That severely weakened the union's position in this negotiation here. So I don't think the union is going to get a better deal than this. They're probably going to end up accepting this one, and the language being used by the union here is kind of suggesting that. Although a 35% wage increase, that is nothing to sneeze at. It's still a pretty decent deal for the union members. Boeing stock right now is up 3.42% on this news, $160.30. That's up $5 this morning, although year-to-date Boeing stock is still down sharply from the roughly $250 that they started the year at. Also going on this morning, TGI Fridays seeks new financing in preparation for bankruptcy. The restaurant chain is huddling with new and potential lenders. The casual dining company's debt includes asset-backed bonds. TGI Fridays is seeking financing as the casual dining chain prepares to file for bankruptcy protection in the coming weeks, according to people with knowledge of its plans, after struggling to turn around a business pressured by customers' tighter budgets and preference for faster food. The company is huddling with lenders in search of a loan that would help it continue running restaurants through the Chapter 11 process and emerge as an operating company, said the people who asked not to be named, discussing confidential information, and nobody names their sources anymore. TGI Fridays is working with lawyers from Ropes and Gray on its bankruptcy preparations, which aren't final and may still potentially change, the people said. Representatives for the company and for Ropes and Gray didn't respond to requests for comment. The chain's obligations include asset-backed securities, which were the source of some drama last month after the company's management breached their terms by failing to file documents to bondholders on time. As a result of that breach, they had to turn over control of some assets to an outside manager. And that is an understatement here. That was a whole business securitization. Basically, TGI Fridays packed up their entire corporation, used it as collateral to borrow $375 million. And when they failed to file those documents on time, they triggered default clauses, and the bondholders basically seized the entire company. Every single cash flowing asset the company had was seized as part of that deal. So now they're trying to negotiate this deal that's going to give the company at least enough money to continue operating while they go through their Chapter 11 process. So no restaurants are going to close, at least not yet, as part of this deal. The company is fighting for its life here. But obviously, TGI Fridays is going to emerge from this whole process a very different company. It's just another sign of how it's the best economy ever, right? We've got this restaurant chain that is in like literally every town in the country has a Fridays at this point. And well, they're going belly up. It's the best economy ever. China has the best economy ever as well, just as the Chinese. And that's why they cut their key lending rates to support growth. Again, more stimmies, more monetary and fiscal easing from the world's second largest economy. And guys, everybody's doing it. The U.S. is cutting rates. Europe is cutting rates. Canada, Australia, England, Switzerland, Sweden, they're all cutting rates. Japan claims they're hiking rates, but they're raising them from nothing to 0.25. Central banks around the world are shifting back into financial repression mode, and this is why gold and silver are rallying along with stocks and everything else. China cut their benchmark lending rates as anticipated at the monthly fixing on Monday, following reductions to other policy rates last month as part of a package of stimulus measures to revive the economy. The one-year loan prime rate, or LPR, was lowered by 25 basis points to 3.1% from 3.35, while the five-year LPR was cut by the same margin to 3.6%. The lending rates were last cut in July. PBOC Governor Pang Gausheng told a financial forum last week that lending rates will decrease by 20 to 25 basis points on October 21st. That's a promise that he kept. The PBOC announced the cut to the bank's reserve requirement ratios by 50 basis points and the benchmark 7-day reverse repo rate by 20 basis points on September 24th, kicking off the most aggressive stimulus since the pandemic that include measures to support the ailing property sector and to boost consumption. So China's stimmy flow continues. But look, guys, the market didn't really care. Check out this candle and a little red candle here. That was the market reaction to this newest stimmy measure. Now, the CSI 300, it did close up for the day, barely. It was up about 0.25% at 39.35, up from the prior close by a decent clip, but it closed well below its opening high. So, I mean, it was a pretty muted reaction to the market. And, contrast that with what the market had done previously with some of these big moves upward on all these stimmy announcements. It's possible the investors are somewhat fatigued from this news, and shy of $1 trillion stimmy plans, the market's just not going to move higher. It's very possible here. But the first rule of investing is don't fight the Fed, and this is the equivalent of the Fed in China, and they are in lovey-dovey mode right now. So Chinese stocks are still in an uptrend, albeit it's a choppy one to say the least. And this is something geopolitical to keep an eye on. China and India reach a border pact before Xi and Modi head to BRICS. I don't think this is going to result in the gold-backed currency, as I mentioned during the open, but this is significant. The world's two most populous nations have reached an agreement in theory on a border dispute that they've been fighting over for several years. This is a weird one, guys. China and India agreed to allow each other's troops to patrol the disputed border between the two countries, a significant step toward ending a 4-year stalemate as leaders from both nuclear-armed nations possibly meet at a BRICS summit next week. After a series of discussions over several weeks, a pact has been reached on patrolling agreements along the line of actual control in the China-India border area. Now, this is interesting. They're not settling on a border. They both still claim the territory, and they're both agreeing to patrol it along the actual line of control, whatever that means. I don't really know. I guess they're just not going to meet on Thursdays to beat each other up anymore. That's probably what this really means. India's Foreign Secretary Vikram Misri told reporters in New Delhi on Monday, this is leading to disengagement and eventually a resolution of the issues that had arisen in these areas in 2020. He said China's foreign ministry didn't immediately respond to a request for further information. The announcement came a day before Chinese President Xi Jinping and Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi are scheduled to attend the BRICS summit in Russia, setting the stage for a possible bilateral meeting between the two leaders. And again, I'm sure people are going to say this is further proof that the BRICS gold-backed currency is going to be coming out any day now, something that was supposed to happen last August and never happened. Guys, again, I don't think this gold-backed currency is going to happen. Maybe we get this basket of commodities-backed currency, whatever the heck that even means, probably resembles something like special drawing rights over at the IMF. But in the meantime, hey, at the very least, they're not shooting at each other. So there's that. Also going on this morning, we have got Spirit stock soars 40%. The budget airline finally has this good news. It's basically a stay of execution, guys. Spirit Airlines shares were soaring on Monday after the budget carrier revealed it had struck an 11th-hour deal to extend a key debt refinancing deadline. The stock, which trades under the ticker SAVE in reference to Spirit's ultra-low-cost model, climbed 40% to $2.06 of pre-market trading. Futures for the small-cap Russell 2000 were trading flat. Any shareholders who have held on to their beaten-down shares will be slightly more cheerful because of the development revealed by Spirit after Friday's close. The deadline for the airline to refinance about $1.1 billion in debt has been pushed back from Monday to late December, Spirit said in an 8-K filing. If it can't refinance, its credit card processing agreement won't be extended into next year. The budget carrier also said in the filing that on October 15th, it borrowed the entire available amount of $300 million under a revolving credit facility, which means there's nothing left that they can borrow here, guys. So now basically the deadline has extended, which means the company won't be going bankrupt in the next few hours. And the stock is up 39%, 37% on this news here. The opening bell has rang, trading at $2.02, up 55 cents on the news. So a stay of execution. Look, I'm not terribly optimistic about this one, but at the very least, they're not going bankrupt today. So there's that. And last but not least, guys, we got this one. A bank failed over the weekend. It was taken into receivership by the FDIC. This bank was in Lindsay, Oklahoma. It was the First National Bank of Lindsay. This was a tiny little bank, $107 million in assets, and this bank failed because of fraud. We don't know exactly what happened, but a lot of money went missing at this bank. Look, guys, there's some very lazy commentary going on about this bank failure. A lot of other YouTube channels were very quick to throw out videos over the weekend about this bank and be like, see the losses from the Fed's interest rate hikes in Silicon Valley Bank, and that crisis never ended. Like, this is totally different, guys. This is more emblematic, if you will, or it resembles that bank in Kansas that failed. Remember Heartland Tri-State Bank? That bank failed. It was a similar thing. Tens of millions of dollars went missing at that bank because of a pig butchering scam, a crypto scam that the CEO got caught up in, and he embezzled the money from the bank. It looks like something similar happened at this bank. I still don't know where the money went, but I'm pretty sure I know who took it. I did some research on this bank over the weekend. There were some very interesting developments in this little town in the years, days, and months leading up to this bank failure. I will be doing a video about this one over the next couple of hours here. I'll be putting out more on this because it's kind of interesting, guys. You know, we're kind of used to this corruption and greed and theft on a grand scale when we talk about central banks and we talk about the big banks and guys like Sam Bankman-Fried and Elizabeth Holmes with Theranos. You know, when the billion-dollar scams are out there, right, the hyperscale nexus and the hyperverse guys, they get a lot of the national attention, but let's not forget that greed comes in all shapes and sizes, and that includes these sleepy little towns and flyover country where greed runs rampant there as well. And the more I read into this, the people of this town have just been bled dry by these crooks for years. I'm not sure if the bank failure is because of this or is related to what's been going on in this town. But the more I have researched about what's been going on in this little town of Lindsay, Oklahoma, the more I feel for the people who live there. This is just a little town that is run by some corrupt people, and they've been stealing for years. And it looks like the people at the local bank got way too greedy and stole way too much. And the taxpayers are on the hook for it. And now the guys in the windbreakers have seized the bank. And, well, we'll know more over the coming days. So keep your eyes peeled to the channel for this one. I will have that one out in the next couple of hours or so. And I just want to say thank you very much to my man, Mish. No, I'm sorry. That was Ian Ross. I thought that was Mish. Ian Ross, thank you so much for gifting 5 Nobody Special Finance memberships. Appreciate the support of the channel, Ian. And guys, if you receive one of those memberships, be sure and let Ian know you are grateful. And don't forget to thank Mish while you're at it. Thank you, Mish, the moderator. I appreciate the super chat, sir, or the gifted memberships and the support of the channel. Thank you very much, brother, for everything you do for the channel. Also, I'll take this moment to give a shout out to my other blue wrenches. Thank you guys for everything you do for the channel, keeping things neat and tidy in the chat as well. And thank you to Mighty Mike 53, who says 10-year 4.136 bricks selling meets today on 22 to the 24th. It's possible bricks is selling. I know China has been a net seller of our debt for several years now. They're down to, I think, under 800 billion of total holdings in U.S. Treasuries. It's a very common misnomer that, you know, this major portion of our 35 or 36, whatever it is, $1 trillion debt is owed to China. We actually don't owe that much to China anymore. We owe more to Japan, and we owe more to ourselves because our bank accounts, our pensions, and our 401ks and our ETFs largely own those U.S. Treasuries. So, you know, when we're voting ourselves money from the bond market, we're really just borrowing from ourselves and calling it wealth. It's part of the silly paperization and financialization of our economy that we've been doing for years. I don't know about the other BRICS countries, Mike. I don't know if India is a net buyer or a net seller of U.S. Treasuries. I've never looked that close, to be honest with you. Certainly not Russia. Russia had some U.S. Treasuries, but they were seized and handed over to Ukraine. So, you know, I don't think the BRICS countries will be buying many U.S. Treasuries. I think that's a safe assumption, though. Thank you very much, Mighty Mike, for supporting the channel, sir. And thank you to Zeeble Fritz for being a melonhead for 4 months. He says, please call Mr. Slammy. I need more silver cheaper. Well, you know what? The market is open now, Z. Has Mr. Slammy showed up on cue? Let's look, because you know what? Whenever silver is up big pre-market, it always makes me wonder. Nope, it looks like Mr. Slammy is taking the day off still. Let's set this to 1-day candles. 34.19. Mr. Slammy did not show up at the open, so we won't be getting any of our shiny on the cheap today, Zeeble Fritz. Hey, but tomorrow's another day. I'm sure Ralston Benham and the Tampi crew over at the CFTC and the ETFs and the CME group, I'm sure they're all going to get together and figure out a way to stop this rally or at least slow it down like they did last time. And maybe that's why this rally still has legs, because they haven't done that yet. Thank you very much, Zeeble Fritz. Appreciate the super chat. And thanks again to Mish, who says Zeeble Fritz has confessed to being Mr. Slammy. I knew it was you, Z. You broke my heart. I knew it was you. Yes. Mr. Slammy has been unmasked. Mr. Zeeble Fritz is Mr. Slammy. Thank you very much, Mish, again, for everything you do to support the channel. And thank you, everybody, for having your coffee with the Melonheads. Enjoy this run in precious metals, everybody. You deserve it. You have been patient. And don't forget, keep an eye on the channel. We'll be talking about that bank failure later today. Thank you very much to my magnanimous Melonheads on Patreon and YouTube for everything you guys do to support the channel. I appreciate that very much. Links down below, should you feel so inclined. Hi, Mom. Hi, Dad. Love you guys. Everybody, till next time, live small and dream big.